Football is way more than just a game. Football is life. If you have been around this game for as long as I have, I'm sure you've heard this statement much more than one time. And if you're brand new to the game and you're just being introduced to its spirit, its atmosphere, its culture, you will quickly find out about what I'm talking about. So, in this video, I want to talk about specifically how the game of football has a great impact on communities and cultures all across the world now, specifically in North America, of course, talking about the US and Canada, where I'm from here. Okay. If you're new to my channel, I highly suggest you hit that subscribe button and just support the channel where we talk about all things football and specifically bringing narratives from within and beyond this game that can ignite greatness in all of us. Okay, so how does the game of football actually has an impact on communities and cultures? I can think of a lot of things, and this video is actually part one of a three-part series, okay, that I'm working on that I will release, periodically. Part one, what I want to talk about today is how the game of football fosters pride and identity. And these things have a great impact on the cultures and just the well-being of communities. Okay, so the first thing, let's talk about pride a little bit. Okay, the cool thing about football is that you got people from all walks of life coming together, and the only thing that matters is what you do on that field. The only thing that matters is your courage, is your resilience, is how hard you work, how good of a teammate you are, and how much you help your team win. This is why this is the ultimate team sports. And there are so many lessons to take in from this game. But why, does football allows people to develop pride? How does it actually fosters pride? You have a lot of guys, as I said, coming in from different backgrounds, girls now also playing flag football and even tackle football that's really, really growing. You got people who, let's quite frankly, let's be honest with ourselves, they don't know who they are, and from their background, from whatever they live, sometimes they lack a bit of confidence and they don't know what they're capable of. The game of football allows you to develop pride because you know that you're pushing yourself past certain boundaries that no other human beings know nothing about. You represent something that's bigger than yourself. You build bonds, that stay with you for the rest of your life. And this is something that people are very, very, very proud of. You see how people, love their team, how they cheer for their favorite player, how prideful they are when their team wins the championship, the Super Bowl. They were the rings. They talk about the stories. You have normal, regular human beings who become legend, okay, who are being talked about years down the road, who have their name in stones and Hall of Fames and different things. There's so much pride attached to this game because people understand the monumental, sacrifice, commitment that comes with it. Okay. So when you have such pride in something that's such a strong part of your community that becomes part of your culture, okay, it trickles down to everything else. It trickles down to everything else. If you're someone who doesn't believe in yourself, if you're someone who doesn't have nothing to be prideful of, just by being associated with a football team, just by being a football player, developing yourself, doing certain things that you may never even think of, traveling, doing certain things, it gives you pride in yourself, where you can look people in the eye, when you can step up and know that you're that guy that can definitely get things done. Okay, so there's so much pride attached to this game. Now, let's be careful about pride. Okay, confidence is very important. Pride can actually take you to a certain point. There's the other element of humility, which we will talk about also in different videos. But for now, there's so much pride attached to this game. And in this case, in this video, it can be a great thing. The second element I want to talk about is identity. Okay, I'll just talk to you from my experience of how I started playing this game. In my neighborhood, okay, when I started playing, I was a little bit older. I was in high school, okay? There was a lot of guys up to no good, okay? There was a lot of guys who are taking on the identity of guys who just wouldn't amount to nothing, you know? Why? Because they hadn't been exposed to anything else. They were actually prideful of that instead of being prideful of something that could be positive for them. So, as you see, pride can be a double edged sword. But let's talk deeper about identity again. Okay, their take on that identity of just guys who just wouldn't amount to much. And they did what they did. But there was a guy, okay, in my neighborhood, like a lot of different neighborhoods all across the US, all across Canada, all across the world, volunteers who make it their mission to give back, who make it their mission to contribute to something that's bigger than themselves, okay, through the game of football, to help out the next generation. So there was this guy, his name was Keith Ewenson, okay, and a lot of other guys just driving around the neighborhood. I was playing basketball, on the street, found me and literally said, "Hey, forget basketball. You need to start playing football." Okay, and that's how the story started for me. But then over time, I realized that he had done the same for so many other guys, okay, that once they fell in love with the game, he transferred his passion to them. They took on this new identity of being an athlete, of being a football player, of knowing that, hey, maybe one day I want to make it to college. Maybe one day I want to get a scholarship. Maybe one day I want to play pro. Or maybe one day I want to be like Keith. I want to be someone who makes a difference for somebody else. But there's a role that I have to take. There's school that's involved. There's a commitment that's involved. That's hard work that's involved. And in order to become those things, I need to take on that identity of being a true student athlete, of being a true leader, of being a true athlete who's a role model, etc. and etc. And this is the identity that I took from playing the game, and that so many other kids from all across the world who love this game are taking on also. And it's making their life better. Now, obviously, we will dive into a lot deeper into the subject, because at some point before being a football player, let's be honest, you were also yourself. If you never knew who you were, and football can be taken away one day, if that identity is taken from you, then who are you? That's the part of the story of a lot of guys where things fall apart, but first and foremost, okay, if you look at this game the right way, you can take on an identity was very positive, and now it's about having perspective, having pride in who you are, having pride in who you want to become, and continuing to build yourself to have the best of both worlds, to contribute to something that's great, but most importantly, contribute to yourself. So don't tell me that a community who isn't proud, that a community who doesn't have a strong identity, that loves themselves, that love their team, that love their people, it's not making the whole community better, and it's not creating a culture of excellence. It's not creating a culture where people want to be a part of it, where people are helped to develop themselves, are helped to grow and give back, just like Keith did, just like I'm doing, and like so many other coaches, parents, mentors all over are doing. Okay, so that's why this is much more than a game. This is actually life. Okay, so this was part one I wanted to talk about today, real quick, of how, football impacts communities and culture by part one, just by fostering pride and fostering identity. In part two, here are my notes right now, I'll talk about the social cohesion and community spirit, that comes through the game of football. So, guys, go in the comments, tell me what you think. Again, this is my humble opinion. I don't have it all figured out. I'm talking from experience myself, but I love to interact with you. I love to see what you think in the comments and your story. Maybe how pride and also just identity has impacted your journey, and how football has a positive impact on your community and your culture. I love to know. Let's bring these narratives forward. Okay, so if you enjoyed the content, go hit that subscribe button and see you next time for the next video. Take care, my people.